Hey guys, it's 2Bricks, and I just wanted to bring you the next video in my Midi-Scale Droid Series. The first one that is human scale, and that is C3-PO. And the reason that I wanted to do C3-PO next is because we've seen a lot of these smaller droids, and it's kind of hard to picture when they're on their own how they scale next to a humanoid character. And so since C3-PO is human-sized, I figured that would be a good thing to include for scale. Especially with something like, the little guys like Dio and BD1 down here. Like it's kind of tough to picture in your mind how big they are, and then seeing this now, you can get a better sense of that. So we're going to take a look at some of the techniques and some of the things that I tried to achieve with my C3-PO model. It was a really, really tricky one to get right, and I'm still not 100% satisfied with it. So yeah, I'll show you guys all of that today. So yeah, let's jump in and take a look. All right, so here is 3PO. Obviously a really, really different kind of build, and the techniques that went into creating this very, very different than any of the other ones I've done so far. He's not a mechanical being in the same kind of way. He's much more organic looking. I love the way that his head wobbles on that old style turntable piece. He's basically a human being. The costume that they have Anthony Daniels wear is very, very tight and very kind of form-fitting, and it looks like it's basically just a second skin, but gold. And so that was one of the major challenges of this. And the other one was the color scheme. Obviously, I had to go with yellow because gold pieces are something that LEGO has a fair few of, but they're mainly used for decoration. There's lots of kind of intricate little filigree type pieces and things of that sort, but there's not a lot of, say, for example, different variations of slopes and things that I would need to create something that is, somewhat believable as a C3PO. So I decided to predominantly go with yellow, but then still mix in some elements of gold here and there where I can. The eyes are gold, and the little kind of finger joints here are connected to a gold piece. So there's at least a little bit of a nod to that within the color scheme. The other thing that's really, really tricky is getting a human face onto something that is this small and having it be correct and believable, especially with C3PO, because he has very, very narrow, close together eyes, and I really wanted to try to get them as close as I could. The whole thing with 3 studs apart kind of feels like the standard length that you would want to go for to achieve that, but the gap in the middle is just a little bit bigger than I would like. And so what I've done is I've used this bar extender piece to kind of bring out this kind of little pinched nose area that he has in there, and just kind of sell the gap between the eyes as being slightly less than it actually is. And it kind of works. I think it portrays it fairly decently well. I'll give you a quick look at the different articulation. His head can go a full 360, and like I said, it kind of wobbles, which I like. His arms are on ball joints, so he can twist them around a fair amount. I wanted to have this kind of smooth connection into the shoulder, so it can't go up too high, but he can bring it up to, horizontal like that. And then the elbows are also independently movable, but I like to keep them bent because 3PO has these little pistons that connect his elbows, and so I like to keep it where these are connected for the most part. He has independently movable fingers, which are just a very simple assembly of clips and plates in between, and each of those can be articulated a little bit in. And then a similar setup to what I'll show you guys for my L3, where I'm using these little modified rounded clip pieces, rounded plates with the bar extension to attach the thumb so that he can bring that forward into a sort of convincing-ish kind of grip. Oops, his arm is coming off. And then so the legs can only be rotated. He can rotate at the knee, the foot, and the hip. And the reason that I did that is because 3PO is very straight and proper, being as how he's essentially a space butler. And I didn't feel like I ever needed to have him in a crouching pose or anything like that. And I wanted the stability that comes with the legs being kind of solid. And so having them be able to rotate like this, he can splay his feet out. You can kind of adopt his very standard kind of, knees in, feet pointing out pose, and that's more than enough for that. And if you ever want to get him moving, he can shuffle. So I think that works out pretty well. The waist is technically articulated. There's a ball joint down in there that holds that, but it's very, there's a very limited range of motion, so it basically gives you a little bit of wobble. And C3PO is a very wobbly guy, so that kind of works out, I think. But it doesn't really do much as far as posing. It's mainly in there just as a convenient way to really just connect the two halves together. So yeah, that worked out okay, but I would like to get a little bit more posability into his midsection if I could. And then as far as the look of it, I'm obviously trying to cover up as many studs as is reasonable, without trying to disguise the fact that it's Lego, but being as how 3PO is such a smooth, organic looking character, I think just all the different combinations of sloped pieces and curved pieces really helps to sell that. One thing that I'm using in here is a print, which is from an old Cars, the Pixar Cars sets, where this smile shape just kind of picked out this really interesting detail that 3PO has, where there's this set of lines that kind of goes around this central detail here, and I just thought that smile, when I turned it upside down, it just really sold that. So yeah, I really like that. And plus there's this little kind of chrome reflective strip, so at least something on 3PO is reflective, so I like that about it. So yeah, just the whole organic nature of 3PO, again, is probably the most tricky thing to get right, but also he has very odd little kind of things about him, little proportional things that are weird, like how this section right here is kind of narrow, but also it's kind of filled with all of this weird like wire detail and little bits of internal structure detail poking through, but then it has to kind of slot into this hip section. It's just that stuff is tricky to figure out with just bricks and plates, and the way that he has these kind of little off details, like there's the lines that go down this way and then they're horizontal on the other leg, where it kind of looked like a mistake, and he has the one silver leg, and of course a lot of people who didn't really pay too close of attention to the original Star Wars movie probably don't get the reference about the silver leg, but in that film, for the opening half, or for the opening, for most of the movie, for most of A New Hope, he has a silver leg, and he just gets it switched out right at the very end. So yeah, there's just a lot of little kind of things like that, which at first glance you might give you pause and make you wonder what you're seeing here. But I think from a distance, if you squint your eyes, there's no doubt that you're looking at C3PO, especially if you get him in his kind of iconic worried pose like this with his arms up and he's just freaking out, and you could just imagine him shuffling off to try to give people some advice that they're not going to listen to. So yeah, I think it turned out to be a fairly successful thing. The most difficult and the part that I'm the least happy with overall is the face, and that's something that I continue to tweak every couple of months. I'll just look over at this and be like, nah, I can do better, and I'll wind up taking it all apart and trying to create something again. But I mostly come back to this design because it, with tweaks, because I think this is pretty effective. And I think the choice to use these inkwell pieces in here sells his little eye socket things about as well as you could possibly hope for at this scale, because it does have a little kind of pinhole in the middle. It's the gold color, and it is slightly thicker or slightly wider than a traditional Lego stud, so it does make the eyes pop a little bit, which I like. But yeah, I mean, overall, it's a really interesting challenge to try to create something like this in MIDI scale, and I am pretty happy with the result, but I do always keep striving for perfection. So you'll see probably an update on this in a couple of years. I'll be like, I basically redid C3PO, and here he is again. So we'll see. So there is 3PO back with his droid family, and it keeps growing, and definitely excited to get into some of the prequel era droids next with you guys. I have the battle droid and the droideka from episode 1 done, and so those are going to be really, really interesting, unique challenge to film those videos, because Those models are meant for posing and leaving them where they're at. They're not supposed to be handled too much, so that's going to be a fun one. All right, you guys, so if you liked the video, if you're enjoying the series so far, I would appreciate the feedback from you guys, comments, likes, dislikes if you didn't like it, you know the drill. All of that stuff really helps the channel grow, you guys know. All right, so yeah, I'm going to get to work on the next video. I will see you on the next one. Until then, may the Force be with you. Thanks, you guys.